Hello, everyone. This is Soccer Scope, and thank you for joining me today. Portugal has officially qualified for the 2026 World Cup as group winners, and looking at the final standings, many would declare it mission accomplished. Yet, if you scrutinized every minute of this six-match campaign, you would recognize a far more complex and unsettling reality beneath the surface. We are discussing a golden generation 2.0 with a squad valuation exceeding 1 billion euros, a team capable of annihilating Armenia with a staggering 4-1 aggregate score over 2 legs, demonstrating terrifying attacking potency when their machinery is firing. However, the remaining 4 matches tell an entirely different story. There was a frustrating 2-2 stalemate at home against Hungary, 2 labored away victories secured by minimal margins, and, most significantly, the disaster in Dublin, a shocking 0-2 defeat to the Republic of Ireland, where Captain Cristiano Ronaldo received a straight red card amidst a display of utter helplessness. This qualifying journey has exposed a profound paradox. Portugal possesses some of the world's finest individual talent, yet they remain a fragile collective entity. Manager Roberto Martínez is heading toward North America in 2026, facing 2 unresolved critical issues: a severe systemic imbalance between attack and defense, and a historic personnel dilemma surrounding Ronaldo at age 41. Today, we are not looking at the 9-1 victories to breed complacency. Instead, we will use the scalpel of data to analyze the entire campaign and uncover the true fault lines within A Seleção. Before we begin, if you appreciate in-depth, multidimensional analysis like this, please hit that subscribe button to support Soccer Scope. Now, here is a survey question for you. Based on their overall performance in the qualifiers, what is Portugal's most fatal weakness right now? A. The defensive system playing too high, leaving them vulnerable to counterattacks. B. The traffic jam in midfield and the difficulty of integrating Ronaldo. Let me know your thoughts by commenting A or B down below. I'm very interested to see where you stand on this critical debate. Roberto Martínez is a manager defined by an almost ideological devotion to control and tactical fluidity. Throughout Portugal's qualifying campaign, he remained unwavering in his commitment to a high-risk, high-reward hybrid system, one that radically reshapes the team depending on whether they have the ball. On paper, Portugal may line up in a conventional back 4, but the moment possession is secured, that structure dissolves. In attacking phases, Martinez demands an aggressive transformation into an ultra-offensive 3-2-5, and at times, an audacious 3-1-6. Fullbacks such as Nuno Mendes and João Cancelo are the catalysts of this evolution. Instructed to abandon their defensive posts entirely and surge forward as auxiliary wingers, flooding the final third with numbers and overwhelming opponents through sheer positional superiority. Against weaker sides defending in a deep low block, Armenia being the most extreme example, this system reaches its theoretical peak. Portugal averaged over 70% possession in these matches, compressing the pitch, suffocating counterattacks before they could breathe, and generating wave after wave of high-quality chances. This is Martinez's football in its purest, most idealized form. But when we shift our focus to the 4 genuinely competitive fixtures, against Hungary and the Republic of Ireland, the data exposes a far more troubling reality. The core issue lies in Portugal's rest defense, the defensive structure maintained while attacking. By committing 5 or even 6 players high into the opposition half, Portugal routinely leaves itself protected by nothing more than 3 center-backs and a single holding midfielder, most often João Palhinha, to manage defensive transitions. The 0-2 defeat in Dublin and the 2-2 home draw against Hungary are textbook case studies. In both matches, opponents needed only to bypass Portugal's initial counterpress to find themselves charging into vast, unguarded expanses behind the advanced fullbacks. These wide dead zones became launchpads for direct, vertical counterattacks that completely bypassed Portugal's midfield structure. The tactical flaw is systemic. Expecting one player, no matter how elite Palhinha is, to cover the entire width of the pitch, extinguish multiple transitions, and anchor the defense simultaneously is strategically unsustainable. In the forgiving ecosystem of qualification, such vulnerabilities can be masked by individual brilliance or inferior opposition. At a World Cup, they will not be. Against elite nations like France or Brazil, teams equipped with explosive pace, surgical passing, and ruthless finishing, this level of defensive exposure is not a minor risk. It is an invitation. And at that level, invitations are never declined. While tactical structures provide the framework, it is the personnel who define the execution. And this qualifying campaign has highlighted two distinct critical personnel crises facing Roberto Martínez. The first is a severe congestion of creative profiles in central zones. When you possess supreme technicians like Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, and Vitinha, the natural inclination is to field them simultaneously to maximize on-ball quality. However, the gritty stalemates against Hungary and the physical battles in Ireland demonstrated the diminishing returns of this approach. With too many elite players occupying similar creative spaces and demanding the ball to feet, the team often lacked necessary verticality and, crucially, a robust defensive presence in the engine room when possession turned over. Yet, the most significant existential challenge remains inevitable. Cristiano Ronaldo, who will be 41 by the summer of 2026. This qualifying campaign provided irrefutable, data-driven evidence regarding his current influence on team dynamics, offering a contrast that is impossible to ignore. The disaster in Dublin, characterized by the limp 0-2 defeat and Ronaldo's frustration-born red card, was symptomatic of collective stagnation when the team's singular focal point is effectively neutralized by a disciplined defense. But what occurred immediately following that suspension was perhaps the cruelest reality check football could offer. In the very next match against Armenia, with Ronaldo suspended, Portugal produced a fundamentally different performance, annihilating their opponents 9-1 in a display of vibrant, modern football. This is no longer a hypothesis. It is empirical data drawn from consecutive fixtures. The contrast revealed that in Ronaldo's absence, Portugal's attacking phase became significantly more fluid, with measurably faster ball progression speeds. The removal of a static focal point liberated vast amounts of space for satellite players. Bruno Fernandes operated with greater central freedom, and the explosive dynamism of Rafael Leão was finally unleashed without restriction because the attack was no longer funneling toward one man. Furthermore, the high-pressing system functioned with far greater synchronization when the front line did not contain a physical weak link in defensive transitions. Consequently, the defining question for Martinez is no longer about Ronaldo's historical greatness. It is a brutal tactical calculation regarding whether a modern high-intensity system can function optimally when it must effectively carry a 41-year-old passenger during defensive phases. Portugal has secured its passage to the 2026 World Cup, but this qualifying campaign should be viewed not as a triumphant procession, but as a dossier filled with critical warnings. They exist currently as a footballing paradox, simultaneously capable of devastating attacking football and startling defensive fragility. While the thrashings of weaker nations provided headlines, the grueling tactical stalemates against Hungary and the shock defeat in Ireland offer far more valuable data points for North America. Furthermore, the astonishing statistical contrast between the laboring, disjointed performances with a 41-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo as the focal point and the fluid, high-pressing 9-goal explosion in his absence cannot be ignored by any serious coaching staff. The supreme technical depth of this golden generation was sufficient to navigate the relatively shallow waters of qualifying, masking systemic cracks through sheer individual brilliance. However, reliance on talent alone, without tactical coherence or personnel compromise, will prove woefully insufficient against the elite opposition awaiting them in the World Cup knockout stages. Roberto Martínez now stands at a defining historical crossroads. He possesses the raw materials to construct a world-dominant force, but realizing that potential requires immediate, ruthless surgery. He must urgently address the structural imbalance in his high-wire defensive system and, most critically, make a definitive decision regarding Ronaldo's role that prioritizes collective function over individual legacy. The 2026 World Cup represents the final horizon for this extraordinary group of players. Whether Martinez chooses the perceived safety of established names or embraces the brave new world of a modern collective identity will determine whether this generation achieves immortality or ends in regret. I am Soccer Scope. Thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next analysis.